welcome to the budget edition of Simply inTAXicating. We are so close to the budget 2015 now. We have talked a lot about budget expectation, but a large number of taxpayers are not aware of how our budget proposals are stitched together. There are several folklores associated with the process of budget making. How intricate it is, how much of hard work goes into filtering the representations of the industry and trade, policing the selected inputs, and finally lending them a respectable cloth of legal provisions. To understand the entire process and also some of the inside dimensions of the budget making, our consulting editor and former chairman of Central Board of Excise and Customs, Mr. Sumit Dutt Majumder, is with us in the studio. Thanking you for joining me, sir. To start with, I would like you to go down the memory lane and share with the TIOL Tube's viewers what sort of roadmap is generally followed by the budget makers in India.
Well, Shailendra, as you rightly said, it is going down the memory lane. It was during the 2011 budget presented by the then Finance Minister, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, that I was the chairman in the board and got myself actively associated with the budget making process during that period. Yes, it's quite a laborious procedure. The officers work so hard. As they say, the officers working in the tax research unit, which refers to the indirect taxes, and TPL with respect to the CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes. And with today's discussion, naturally, I would cover only the indirect taxes side. The main strength of budget making in the indirect taxes side is the tax research unit, the main center. So, in the month of November, it starts gathering steam. And that time, what happens, the member budget, he starts meeting the trade and industry. Then the chairman meets. So as chairman, I had met a number of, and Revenue Secretary also takes a few meetings from December, second week I think, or second or middle. That is the time when actually it's in full steam, when Finance Minister meets the entire industry, trade and agriculture. Right. You say what? I mean, you name any sector. I would say the entire sectors which affect the national economy are being met by the Finance Minister. Best part is that I still remember Mr. Pranab Mukherjee's time. He used to say one thing, all of us used to feel quite amused, and he used to say that today I will only hear, I will not say a single word, because my officers are there and they will note down all your demands. We will get it examined appropriately. And Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, he used to sit late in office. So his meetings would start anytime between 7 to 8 p.m. after he's done with all the file work and all. And we all assemble in the conference table in his room, and there the discussions will start. In the core group meeting, you see there are Finance Minister would sit on the head of the table, and the most important person, perhaps from his point of view, is the Joint Secretary Budget, who will be sitting right across him. And I remember the Joint Secretary Budget happened to be Mr. Shaktikanta Das, who is now at present Revenue Secretary. Right. He was the Joint Secretary Budget. And on the left-hand side, advisor to Finance Minister, Madam Amita Paul, would be sitting first. Next to her would be Dr. Kaushik Basu. Dr. Kaushik Basu was Chief Economic Advisor, right. And as you know, right now he is a Chief Economist in World Bank. Right. Mr. Gopalan, who was, I think, Secretary Economic Affairs. And next to him used to be Mr. Sumit Bose, who was the Revenue Secretary. No, he was not Revenue Secretary at that time. He was Disinvestment Secretary. Secretary Disinvestment. Secretary. I'm talking about 2011 budget, right. 11-12 budget. Yes. So he was the Secretary Disinvestment. Sir. And then next to him On the other side would be Shaktikanta Das, Mr. Shaktikanta Das, and next to him would be, I think, Rajiv Mehrotra. He is an economist in the finance ministry. On this side, on the right side, obviously the first person on his right side would be the finance secretary. Right. Mr. Ashok Chawla was the finance secretary. And I would be sitting as chairman CBC, I would be sitting next to Secretary Revenue. And on the other side, I also forgot to mention my counterpart, Chairman CVDT would be on the sitting on the other side. So that's how the discussions start, and everyday discussion will start with our Pranab Mukherjee Saab. With a smile, we'll ask Mr. Shaktikanta Das. Now, Shakti, you start, and where do we start from? Right. What is the revenue collection? What have you been able to curtail the expenditure side?
But sir, apart from debating and discussing and looking into the various proposals of the budget makers, whether our budget makers also feel hungry?
I know, I tell you, but they don't let us to remain hungry. The then Finance Minister, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, knew about it and used to take good care of it. And if the food was not good, he used to complain and to tell the person concerned that you better ask them to take care. And obviously, almost every half an hour or 1 hour, some varieties of food used to come, because our meetings used to go still midnight. Quite often up to midnight, almost up to midnight. But generally between 11 and 12, it will go anyway. So you'll feel very hungry at that time. Okay. And so there will be different items like, I remember, of course, the common one, sandwich and idli maybe once or twice, and but there will be vegetable cutlet, right. And there will be jalebi, the sweet way. I believe it is our FM was very fond of jalebis, and somebody mentioned, I remember one day, and then he smiled approvingly. This comes over twice or thrice during the discussions, but there is no break. It goes on. We are eating and discussing, and it goes on.
All these processes, these hectic meetings start sometime in December. And it continues till February 20th, sir.
I'll tell you, what I have seen during our time, by 2nd week of February, almost everything is complete. Structure, decisions are taken wherever we have to decrease the tax, central excise or customs or service tax, wherever we have to increase the tax, everything is decided. Wherever we have to give exemptions. By and large, by middle of 2nd week of February, it's all done. Later, after that, it is only fine-tuning. And another important thing happens during this time, generally end of January or very beginning of February. We get a note from the Prime Minister. He used to send certain points for examination. And I understand that Finance Minister used to keep PM informed, because we used to hear sometimes saying that PM was mentioning that, PM was mentioning this, like that. So we could gather that he had been talking to PM verbally, that how the things are shaping up. But there is a formal meeting when, as I said, all the nitty-gritties are finalized. That formal meeting, he would take us means he would take the Revenue Secretary. During my time, Mr. Sunil Mitra was the Revenue Secretary, and Chairman CVDT, Mr. Sudhir Chandra was the Chairman CVDT, myself, and these three of us, we used to accompany our Finance Minister, and he will take us to the Prime Minister. First, Prime Minister will ask 1 or 2 things to Secretary. Mr. Sunil Mitra replied. I am talking about the particular meeting that I attended. And there is no counter question. Then he asked Chairman CVDT, and then he came to me. He asked, he asked me also.
So, economics survey, as is normally understood, is the baby of the Chief Economic Advisor. He is the author, and he tells normally the content of the entire economic survey. Whether there is any sort of, whether the Chief Economic Advisor is also present. So, what happens? Whether there is some kind of reflection of the budget proposals in the economic survey, whether there is some sort of linkage or nexus between what is being disclosed in the economic survey and what is going to be as part of the budget proposals?
Well, I would say, I would explain it this way. Yes, Chief Economic Advisor attends all those core group meetings, and not only attends, he interacts. When the proposals are discussed, Finance Minister sometimes will ask, I remember the Kaushik, what's your view on that? Like that he will ask him. So he knows what is going around. So he's aware. But I feel, as an economist, he is given free hand to give his report on the economic survey.
There is a tradition normally. Every year Press Information Bureau will come out with press release saying that certain part of North Block is out of bound for media and others. So the budget proposals are shrouded in secrecy.
Yeah, you see, all budget proposals ought to be shrouded in secrecy. You can't, because if this gets leaked, then these some of the unscrupulous elements in the trading industry, they'll take advantage. It's very essential that it should be shrouded in secrecy. TRU is out of bounds for people, but those TRU people want to meet, a special pass is made, but very rarely. Otherwise, they come out and meet the trade industry outside. Main restriction comes when after everything is finalized, the printing part takes place. Right. That is in a section which is the basement if you enter it from the Raisina hillside, right, and which is basically the ground floor if you enter from the Gurdwara side. Right. Right. So that part where these are absolute, once they are locked in that printing press for those 5-6 days, they can't come out of the press. They don't have any mobile, no telephone facility. They're totally incommunicado.
But they have enough to eat, they have enough space to sleep.
Enough place to sleep. And I've seen Mr. Pranab Mukherjee Sahab personally supervising and taking before the day it will start, he supervised and saw that every arrangement is there, their comforts and everything were taken care of. It will say, yes, this will be there.
So that starts with the Halwa ceremony.
Yeah, Halwa ceremony is like this. We Indians always follow a convention. You see, whenever something shubh, something good is to be done, we do that muh mitha, right, which means start with some sweet meat. And in North India and winter, halwa is the best sweet meat. A lot of sweet, a lot of sugar, a lot of ghee. Yes. So it starts with that. Yes, that halwa ceremony, the finance minister himself comes and then distributes halwa to everybody. And that is from that time onwards, it is out of bounds for people. And the people can't go out of it. That is the halwa ceremony.
And they are allowed to go home after the budget is out?
After the budget is presented. Then there's nothing else to do.
They rush out.
To meet their fresh air and then to meet their family near it. Of course, it's a tough job, and they have been doing it very well all these years.
How much anxiety grips the budget makers on the budget day? When exactly the sun rises for them?
No, actually, I tell you, once we know that it has gone to the printing press, we are relaxed. We are relaxed. I as chairman or my member budget or other TRU people, we have nothing else to do. Right, so because we have to wait for the presentation of the budget and then the response, there's no anxiety on that.
So the FM is normally seen carrying a bag, leather
he
bag.
carries a bag. I think this is a tradition, convention.
So there is something inside the bag, sir? There
must be the budget papers, which will read out.
Okay.
Which will read
so
out.
That is his papers.
That is his papers, because no one else is carrying this.
So you're saying that it is not that heavy?
No, thankfully it's not like that. Load of economy may be too much, but the load of the papers is not much. These days things are quite simplified, and I would expect just see, and once the GST comes, what will happen? In the budget day, there won't be nothing much to do for the FM except for announcing on the customs duty and some of the items which we hear that will not be part of GST, like your petroleum and like that. So it will be much lighter.
Much lighter.
From 2016, April if it comes, then from 2017 onwards.
Right.
Yes.
But the most vital part the entire nation looks forward to is the budget speech. When exactly the budget speech is finalized, who makes it, who writes it, and when exactly the budget writing starts?
It's an ongoing process. As a matter of fact, budget speech, I would think that the speech writing starts in the month of February.
Right,
because unless the things are put into place, yes, you can't write. You must say about important items which have to be covered in his speech to highlight. Writing starts only when things fall in place, and then the budget speech is written. That depends on the finance minister, whom he may ask 1 or 2 person, 2-3 persons to go through it and all. Of course, advisor has a very big role in it. And advisor, I saw that she did intervene in discussions as well. So all those things will be there. So the final part will be, as I said, when everything is over, then the budget speech writing. And that time all of us sit together, at least during Mr. Pranab Mukherjee's time, when everything is ready and everything just to be given to the final approval of FM, and then we decide which should be highlighted and that which a para should come. Like I remember we had said, Secretary and Revenue Secretary Mr. Sunil Mitra and I, we said that ready-made garment, one para to explain that these things will be done and all. And so these things are, the speech writing is a continuous process.
We have heard somebody told me that Mr. Chidambaram, normally he used to write his own budget speech. Whether there is some kind of debate on this budget, writing the budget speech also?
I won't be able to say about Mr. Chidambaram. Of course, I worked under him as a DGRI, but not in the board. By the time I came to the board, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee was the finance minister. Of course, he has his stamp. He also would be changing a few words here and there, omit certain patterns, but that is finally by him.
But generally the finance ministers, some of them, they have been very fond of some Urdu couplets, some sort of, interesting writers, some references to some authors, some poets, some kind of.
Yeah, it depends on the finance minister, because I am only saying that what we have heard, like Yashwant Sinha, when he said he brought that Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, I still remember, in the cinema and some other thing. Yes. Mr. Chidambaram would quote famous Tamil poet, Thiruvallur, and philosophical and all. Even our Dr. Manmohan Singh would do couplet. And Mr. Pranab Mukherjee was not very fond of putting it, but 1 or 2 he has also put.
Sir, before we wrap up this discussion, this dialogue, whether there is some sort of procedure, some sort of machinery, some sort of preparedness to handle the printer's devil, in case there is some sort of serious error which is detected late. So how exactly this kind of mistakes are handled?
Yeah, the proofreading sort of thing, and that thing is taken care of. Yes, definitely. We don't leave everything to the printers. Exactly. So, as you said, that so that the devil is not there. So we always, the people from the TRU and all earmarked offices, they will go to the last print and all to see that nothing is there. That proofreading is done very meticulously.
Thanking you, sir, for sharing partly known as well as unknown dimensions of the process of budget making followed by our budget makers. Let me wish Mr. Jaitley good luck for presenting not only a populist budget but also the one which lays down the roadmap for speedy recovery of the economy and Achhe Din which the Prime Minister has been promising on various occasions, even before the polls and after the polls. Thanking you for watching and may look forward to our special budget coverage on Saturday and Monday.